Hello and welcome everyone to the Difference Maker Show. I'm Lynn Sanders, your host and the story marketing coach, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to join us. We have a very special show today. Every show is about sharing stories, tips, and strategies that will inspire, motivate, and empower you to be at your highest potential. And today's show is no exception to that. In fact, it ties in with the spiritual nature of our weekend. We're right around the corner from Passover and Easter. It's a time for growth, rebirth, contemplation, and we're going to have that experience today. So I want you all to be encouraged to write your name down on the comment stream and where you're hanging out from. Please also feel free to share your comments and questions during the show so we can all engage with each other. That's what makes it the most meaningful. So today's show topic is manifesting your vision, and you're going to hear stories, tips, and strategies from our two guests, Lynn Hawkins, Lynn Hawkins, and Roland Takaoka, who will share how they overcame very unusual and difficult obstacles to be able to manifest their vision. But before we start, I want to introduce our wing woman and special friend, Rain Dowell, who's also the co-host of Lights, Camera, HOA. Rain, would you tell us where you're hanging out from? Welcome.
You bet. Thank you. I'm hanging out from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It's a little bit chilly here today, but that's okay. Spring's coming.
I'm glad you're...
Sorry. And I'm really looking forward to hearing Lynn and Roland's stories. It sounds really, really intriguing, and I'm looking forward to it. And just so you know, we've got Dave Moore. Dave Moore is in the audience, and
hey, Dave.
And he says he's looking forward to this. Thank you for the invite. And we've got Bill Graham. He's standing by in Belize.
Wow.
Belize. Yeah. And we've got Elaine Nieberding, front and center. Hello, she's saying to everybody.
Hey, Elaine.
So glad everybody's with us today.
Thank you. Well, we're going to start now with an introduction, and then I want to also add a special surprise that I just thought of this morning. It came as a little bit of inspiration. So first, both of our guests are people I have just met this year who I've become friends with, and I'm so grateful to know them. They're both very heart-centered entrepreneurs, and they're also hosts of their own online shows. Our first guest is Lynn Hawkins, also known as Lynn, but we're going to refer to her as Lynn so we don't get confused during the show, since I'm also Lynn. And Lynn is the Business Strategy Development Muse. She's an author, speaker, and host of the Biz Info Zone show, co-host of the Adventures of the Heart web TV show, and founder of the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship. And she's also the creator of the Permission Movement that serves heart-centered, purpose-driven entrepreneurs she helps them build bigger businesses and making a bigger global difference to do good around the world. Someone who's definitely with my own heart. Welcome, Lynn. And where are you hanging out from today?
Thanks, Lynn. I'm here in not-so-sunny Atlanta, Georgia today. But it's all good. Spring is in the air. The trees are blooming leaves and the flowers are coming up. So I'm a happy girl.
That's great. And it's spring right now inside, right? Inside
yes,
ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's important. And my other very dear friend, Roland Takaoka, he's the host of the Saturday Morning Smarty Show. It's a great show. And he's developed a new business in engagement marketing and education-based marketing. Roland helps people grow their businesses and websites presence, and he offers training and influences outcomes far beyond what he originally thought was possible. Welcome, Roland, and where are you hanging out from today?
Good morning. I'm coming at you from Rancho Santa Margarita. It's one of those names that's hard to get on a forum online because there's so many letters. It's sunny and nice, and I'm just really glad to be here. I'm saying hello to Lynn and Rain. It's great to be here with all of you. Thank you, Lynn.
No, my pleasure. And I'm here in sunny Chicago. It's supposed to snow tomorrow. I don't know, but we're hoping for spring soon. Well, before we launch into our program, I don't know, Rain, if you would be kind to give us a little drum roll special effect. I'm putting Rain on the spot now. I had a flash of intuition this morning, and I wanted to share it all with you. Did you find the drum roll, Rain?
Okay,
Tell me if you do.
I do. I have it. Ready?
Okay. It's a little anticipation for everyone. Oh, great. Well, since this is a spiritual show and we're diving into our heart, I thought what better way to start than share something very personal with you. Last weekend, my husband and I went to Bloomington, Indiana, to the University of Indiana. And actually, at the University of Indiana, the Dalai Lama has come there many times to visit because his brother used to live there, and the brother's family still lives there, and there's a Tibetan center there. So my husband and I love spiritual things, and we went to the Tibetan gift shop, the Happy Yak gift shop. I'm promoting them, and we found these wonderful objects, including something called singing bowls. And I thought, if Chef Dennis Litley listens to this, this might be a bowl he's never seen before. I don't know, but they have bowls in all sizes, and the one we ended up picking was actually smuggled out of a Tibetan monastery. And it's old, it's ancient, and the bowls have different sounds according to the sizes. We spent about an hour in this gift shop. We were trying out all different bowls, and this one really sung to our hearts. The reason I want to play this for all of you is so that you can get into a very peaceful state as we start our program, a meditation, contemplation state. I have to admit that I did not get sounds out of the smaller bowls, but this one I was able to get sounds out of very easily. So let me share it with you. This is from Tibet. Our guest who's come the longest distance, Tibetan boy, took off all my jewelry. This is called a stick. That's what and you can gently tap the outside of the bowl, and I'm going to see if I'm in the. I'll keep it on talk mode. Do you think that's okay, Rain? Or should, yeah. All right. I'm going to gently give it a little tap, and I will rotate it around the perimeter and see if you hear anything.
Beautiful.
Wow. So that's to get us all in a very calm state. I hope you like it. Let us know how you feel about that in the comment stream. Whew. All right, so Lynn, we're going to start with you. And our focus is on positivity, but we also want to share with our audience that it takes time to go through that journey of getting to where we want to be in our vision. So would you share with our audience the challenges you had to overcome in order to manifest your vision? I appreciate your candid nature. Thank you.
Well, and I have to say, it's hard to go to that piece of my story after having experienced this beautiful uplifting of heart that you've just taken us through. That was really beautiful, and that's actually one of the things that I used as I was going through my healing. I have a little bell that I've used, and it has called me more times than I've actually said, let me just hit the chime of the bell. And I know that in its calling me, it has helped me to really come into the space of opening my heart for healing. And after some of the things that I've been through in my life, I really came to the point where I thought, there is no way that I'm going to share my story. I know people who have shared stories that have been much more challenging than my own, but it still didn't give me permission. I still didn't feel as though whatever it was that I had heard of someone else's story was enough for me to give myself permission to tell my own, until my son passed away. And let me take you back several years, as a matter of fact, to the little girl, cute, brilliant, exploratory, verbal, and multilingual, had a dream for her future that at age 7 just totally, it felt like it was the rope connecting the little girl to adulthood that just got sliced in between, and nothing was the same. And when I talk about life changing in the blink of an eye, I had two major incidences that happened for me, and that one was when I was 7, when my father passed away. He passed away of a massive heart attack. And as I became older and learned as an adult about CPR, because part of my career, I was an 18-year veteran fitness instructor. And one of the reasons that I went into the fitness industry was because at age 26, I got exposed to exercising. And in that exposure, I saw myself so differently. In my early fitness career, I gained the confidence to do some things that, honestly, I don't know where I would otherwise be today.
Wow.
I learned to stand and claim my space, sitting at the executive management table at organizations like Fannie Mae, at organizations that were multi-million-dollar, if not billion-dollar corporations, and I was in an executive management position, running teams, building teams, creating teams, and developing teams of people that range from the size of 2 to 100 and more.
Wow.
And national teams. So I had team leaders who were my direct connections, teaching them how to manage their teams of people who were scattered all across the country. And a lot of that confidence and courage came from my having found fitness, because when I was growing up, especially after my dad died, there were a lot of people who poured into my life and said, "You can't do that. This isn't for you. You're a girl. You're a black girl. You are not supposed to be in this space." And unfortunately, some of that I bought because I trusted the people who were telling me those things, and admiring the friends who I saw had different things being told to them. And that's what actually kind of stuck with me in adulthood. I said, well, if this is my choice, then I like what she's doing, or at least some of it, so I'm going to pull a little piece of that and
that's great.
Let that go and grow into my heart. And I saw that, and some of these people were not just women, some of them were guys. And a lot of the management training that I learned for the benefit of my teams, I brought to myself first and to my family second, then to my teams. And I was able to balance a lot of that work also in order to grow both my family, my kids, and my teams. And I looked at my teams, although some of the people on my teams were my peers age-wise, some were older than me, I still saw it as an opportunity for me to pour into lives. And 2.5 years ago, one Saturday afternoon, I get a phone call, and it's my sister, and she's like, "You have to come over now." I'm like, what in the world? And it was one of the hardest things in her life to have to actually tell me that she had gotten the phone call that my son had been killed. 33 years old, the father of 2, married, and just gone in the blink of an eye. And I thought, okay, after I kind of collected myself, my next thought was, what do I have to do? I thought I was going to get on a plane, come to Atlanta, connect with my daughter, and go to Japan, where he had been living for the last 10 years. And instead I found out, which was also quite devastating for me, that my stepson and their father's sister, my sister-in-law, my ex-sister-in-law, were both on their way to Japan to visit my son. They were arriving that afternoon.
Oh, no.
And for them, it was, I can't imagine the devastation, but they actually stayed in Japan for almost 2 weeks. No, it was actually a little more than 2 weeks, making the arrangements, having a memorial service, and doing everything, working with the military in order to have me to reclaim my son. And then they all came. My grandsons, my daughter-in-law, all came from Japan to be with me here while we did the final arrangements for my son. So he's actually buried at the Georgia Memorial Cemetery about 50 miles from here. So I get to go visit, and I have to tell you that I was asking a lot of questions during that period of time, right? Why the two men that mean the most to me?
Right.
Why? And of course, you know, that's not quite the right question, because there are either no answers or numerous answers. And the first time that I went to visit my son's gravesite, there was a plane overhead. And the plane, you know how they do the smoke out and do the white streaks?
Right.
There was a crisscross in the sky, and as I looked up, it was directly over my head.
Oh my gosh.
And
What a
I knew that there were some things in my future.
wow.
That was truly a sign that I needed to look up to gain strength, and that whatever it was that was a need in my life was going to be ahead of me and above me. So staying connected in the flow of what is above me being my source, God, and what is ahead of me being the beginning of all things new, because the day that I got here, from having gotten that phone call, I stayed. And my daughter and I are now raising my oldest grandson, who my son had from his first marriage, and we are now a new family nucleus.
Wow.
The three
So
of us.
you really recreated your life and had it go
Yes.
from stepping out of the box professionally to dealing with, I would say, probably the hardest thing that anyone could face, and learning to reinvent yourself, which we're going to go into more depth, is, I think, was an incredible thing that you did, and inspirational for everyone here. So I want to come back to you, Lynn, if you wouldn't hold it. So I want to go over to Roland and come back to you. And now, Rain and Roland, I want you both to feel free to speak to Lynn, since we have the same name. And if you want to ask her a question or make a comment, feel free, because we want to make this meaningful for everyone involved. And I want to also share some comments with the comment stream. So go ahead, Roland.
If I could interject a moment, I would say, well, first of all, an incredible story. You have been through an experience that I cannot relate to totally. I can imagine it, but I'm sure that, you know, we can't know what you went through. So to relate to it, we can all come to some kind of an agreement inside of ourselves saying, I understand what she went through, but it can't be the reality of what you did. So I've got to really respect you for that. But early on, you said something, and if I could pull it out of my memory now, because I got wrapped up in your story, and I kind of get carried away. But you mentioned something. Oh yes, the idea that other people speak, and they want to tell your story for you, and they're going to tell you things they believe about you and me. And if we sit there absorbing that and believe that, we're less in focus of what we actually are than we can be. And the important thing is
right.
the important thing is when we start telling our own story to ourselves, and that's where it all comes together. So thank you for that.
You're so right. I love that thought, and you know, that's part of the healing.
Yeah.
You know, so yes, and I'm anxious to hear your story.
Yes, let's. Rain, do you want to share any comments that you would like to share with us, or quotes that you think would be fun?
Sure. We've got just got with regard to your singing bowl. Bill Graham thought it was pretty cool. He's never seen that before, so that was neat.
Great.
And Earl Bateman said he thought he's heard it before, but it is very calming and interesting. So, and maybe that was why Lynn, maybe that was why your bell, the bell you mentioned it helped you quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
calming.
sound does take us to a different place in our heart. It's the energy. So I wanted to start the show off that way so that we could all feel opened up, whether we're watching this live or on the replay or right here with our guests. I'm going to move forward now to Roland. And Roland, would you share what happened to you that changed your life and is now as you're moving forward through that?
Oh, I'm glad you added the last thing, the moving forward.
All right, we're not focusing on names.
Because, to tell the truth, my story is pretty simple, and I don't want to dwell on my story, so I'm going to tell that in 60 seconds and move on to what I'd rather talk about.
Okay.
But the idea is, people don't take perfect care of themselves, and I'm one of them. So I ended up having a series of strokes. Some of it was because of my inherited conditions of being Japanese, being in my family, and so forth, but I cannot blame them for what I manifested. And I truly believe that I manifested where I am. So part of this is like I take full responsibility for where I am. But when you do that, it sets you free in another respect, because if you put yourself there, you also have the power and the ability to change it and to find yourself somewhere else. And it's all about your own thinking and your own motivational and your own intention and the energy that you put out into the universe. So it gave me the power to move on from there and take charge of my life.
But also think about, you had told me privately how you had a totally different profession. So in a sense, what happened to you is now propelled you forward. Why don't you share with everyone what you did before all this happened?
I spent 30 years as a disc jockey doing mobile and special events and did corporate events, and I was pretty well liked and well received in many circles. And I was pretty much an ease MC over a microphone, so they asked me to run fashion shows, sometimes talent shows. I did some karaoke. And by the way, that's the least amount of money you're going to make ever for the most amount of work, is run a karaoke show. But they can be a lot of fun. And
but those skills you were able to transfer into what you're doing now, right? Some of those skills as far as you're talking with people?
Yeah, there's no doubt that a lot of what I do and am able to do is because of the experience that I've had there. But I've also had, even before being a disc jockey, I spent a lot of time editing a video on 3/4 inch and videotaping, and then being in the studio and doing the physical editing, but also writing scripts and producing and directing the video shoots and that stuff. So I had a lot of experience in the field that contributes to my state of mind. Although I had to transfer a lot of these skills into the digital age, I'm basically doing it all in one place in front of my computer now, where we used to be running around doing things and rushing through a bunch of equipment and sliding tape through reels. And now it's a different story, but it's basically the same effect of the end result.
That's great. And now you're helping people all over the world through your computer, as Lynn is too. Lynn, do you have any questions for Roland before we come back to you?
Well, I do want to say that I really loved Roland saying that, when you get to the point where you take responsibility for all of who you have become to date and then move forward into life, you do have a different perspective, and that state of freedom, oh my gosh, it truly is my choice. It truly is me doing and causing things. And you know that whatever lies before you still is your responsibility. So that's what actually propelled me into manifesting. And I see that Roland has done something similar in, all the power and the ability to change his life that he's done. He's manifested a new life for himself. I'm so in admiration of you, Roland. I cannot imagine. Yeah.
Well, let's go into the steps of what both of you went through, because I think that's going to be of most interest to everyone, that you took these obstacles and you transformed your life as a result of that and moved forward. So, Leland, let's start with you. Can you tell us what are some of the strategies or tips that you did to propel yourself forward? And you have multiple projects going on that are so fascinating to me. So please share with us what you've been doing.
Well, thanks, Lynn. I actually just, spent a period of time in prayer. I couldn't do much more physically because emotionally I was just outside of myself. So
Oh,
as I started coming back, it was amazing the things that got downloaded to me. And one was my the answer to my question. So what do I do next for business? I really was done with the thought of working for someone else, and I was like, so now where do I start? And I, very left brain, I went to what I knew, which was, where did you start when you started your business? I started with a business plan. And I went to my business plan, I reviewed my business plan, and as it turned out, my 5-year goal to go to a more digital platform, to go to a global audience, was like staring me in the face. It was like, okay, so now you're at 3.5 years, let's get this puppy started now. And I tell you, that was part of the freedom that I felt about starting my business again in a new location, from a new space. Everything had changed, and I could dream again, because with my business plan, I saw the continuation of the vision that I had already set. Because one of the questions was, everything's changed, does everything have to change? And what that told me was, no, you had set the path, you wrote the vision, you made it plain, and I had something to step back into. It's like you're on the journey, on the path, and I got knocked off the path. And then when I saw the path again, I was able to easily get back on and start moving forward. I had the sign. The message was given to me that it would be shown, and it was. And I actually, you mentioned the permission movement. And that was a part of what it was that I used to move myself forward much more rapidly than I think would otherwise happen. It was being in the story of giving myself permission, taking my permission back, much like what Roland said. It's my story to write. I'm giving myself permission to write what I want, and what I desire and what I dream of. And so I started writing again. I started singing again. I started connecting with the people and doing the things that really made my heart sing. It made my heart come back alive, because I was really in a broken-hearted state, and my heart became better as I was connecting with people like you, Lynn Sanders, with such an amazing project of your own, and just into the Google Hangouts world. I mean, that's been amazing for me.
It's true. Will you tell us what the permission movement is all about? Because I think that everyone would love to hear about that. I certainly was really impressed with what you're doing.
Well, thanks. It started with a book. I got the download to do a book, write a book. I was like, okay, and I got an opportunity to become a co-author. That was about 4 years ago. And then after that, it was like, that's not the book I wanted you to write. I was like, oh, okay, I could do another book, right? And so then I got the download about a series of books, permission guidebooks. Permission guidebooks for business women, for businessmen, for entrepreneurs, for grandfathers, grandmothers, for kids and teens. And then the first book is Permission to be Powerful, which totally is and resonates with my story. It was about me standing in my power to do what I know that I was created to be, do, and have right here, right now, on this planet. And 20 other women joined me in that project, and we're turning the book, because of how we've written the chapters, we're turning the book into a study guide and a leader guide, so that small groups of girls and women can actually pull out the tools that are being talked about in this book and use those tools as additional tools in their toolbox. One of the things that I thought about was, at 20 years old, if I had known then some of the things I know now, how much farther could I have gone? How much more of a difference in the world could I have made at this point in time in my life? And I would like to give that opportunity. We all 20 of us would like to give that opportunity to girls and women, girls who are aging out of foster care, girls who are coming out of juvenile detention, women who are transitioning out of prison, and the military who are looking at their future and saying, I don't even know where to start. And so that's what we hope that this project will do for them.
That is so wonderful. And you know, I'm honored also, Lynn, that you allowed me to write a chapter in that book, Permission to be Powerful, the permission to tell your story. I think everyone, at some time or another, gets affected by negativity, by people's criticisms, and it's our choice. Maybe people don't always realize it, but it's our choice to believe or not to believe. And your book and your whole movement is a way where people to be able to claim their own power. Would you let everyone know where they can find out more information about that?
Thank you. Yes, you can find out more information at permissionmovement.org. That's permissionmovement.org. O-R-G, and just join us in the movement, join us in empowering others to stand in their power, giving themselves permission to be, do, and have all of the good that they were put here to experience.
Thank you, Lynn.
And
we're going to go a little over today because I knew that we had so much to share, and this is really important for everyone's hearts. I want to turn to Roland because I would like you to share how you have been manifesting your vision and helping people get engaged and share their stories powerfully.
I will talk about not so much what exactly I'm doing. I will talk about what I believe, because you know, whatever I've been through, it leads me to a belief system that allows me to manifest what I'm going to, right? Because you can't manifest something you don't believe in. But I wanted to reflect back on what Lynn was just covering, the whole concept of permission. I mean, it starts off with the idea that you need permission. You need the endorsement of the people around you. You look for other people's nod of the head in order to progress, to say, can I go? Can I go? And that hangs a lot of people up. Right from the, you know, we're trained to do that from kids. And we don't really train our kids well enough to actually have the confidence to step up and create and do what they are. You know, they're too busy trying to figure out, what does mom want me to do? What does dad want me to do? What does my teacher want me to do? And so forth. And in that respect, it's devastating to a child to lose that innocence. So that goes for adults. A lot of us grew up from that stage of non-endorsement and non-permission, and we're trying to create from that. We wonder, why is it that we can't create? So my subject would be more like, not so much what I do to empower people. It'd be like the subject of why people are not empowered and why they're wired for failure, why are they not wired for success, what causes them not to succeed. And that would be a very, very interesting subject. It would take us the rest of the day to really cover it. But I mean, I think
at least go ahead.
That is the subject that I would attack if it was like something to really be discovered in each individual. It's like, what causes you to fail? What causes you to short circuit your thinking so you can't succeed? And it's always, you know, like I talked to a guy named Tim Longwell yesterday. I've been doing a lot of talking with him, but he mimicked exactly what was on my mind. He goes, the limits that we have are expressed because of our own imposition of those limits. It's not somebody else limiting us. It's us thinking we have the limits, and we set our own goals that high instead of this high or unlimited. So our own thinking is what keeps us from expanding and succeeding. So Tim nailed it.
I would ask a question to everyone, including you, Roland, and Lynn and Rain. How affected are we by our environment in our thinking? Before the show today, I was just looking at some YouTube videos. I posted a couple in the Google Plus platform. One of a boy who was autistic and blind, who was a musical savant, could play anything, and he not only got great pleasure in playing, but then he got great pleasure in performing, and it opened up his whole world where he could then interact with others because he could recognize his gift and because he had a supportive family. So I would like to ask all of you, and listening and hear the guests, how affected do you think you are by your environment? Lynn, let's start with you. You haven't said too much. How affected have you been by your environment, or have you had to step outside of the limitations that were imposed?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to. We were talking a little bit about this the other day, where it's very easy when people put you in a box or see you a certain way. It's actually easier to go into that box and let people see you that way. It's a lot more difficult to kind of, burst the box open and go it on your own to figure out what it is you want to do, what it is you want to be, what it is that makes you happy, what it is that lights a fire under you, and that you have fun doing and that you enjoy. And sometimes those things don't line up with other people's boxes. So it tends to make other people very uncomfortable when you break out it. So you have to kind of be aware that not only will it be uncomfortable for you breaking through the box, but it's going to be uncomfortable for the people around you. And you really have to be at a point where you have to be willing to let people go that aren't willing to go on the journey with you.
Very, very
powerful. If they're not willing to go on the journey with you, then they're going to basically be in your way. So the best thing you can do is just, it's okay. It's, I can't be in that box for you anymore, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is where I'm supposed to be going. And it's okay, because it's fear. It's usually fear, both
right.
for ourselves when we're coming out of the box, and for those others. It's almost like at first they're fearful for us because they haven't done it, and then it worries them, what are you doing?
Right. And the question is, are we being affected by our fears more, or our dreams? And you yourself, or all of you here, are an example of moving forward from your dreams. And Rain, you're going to be manifesting your dreams very soon, which I'm sure we'll be hearing about. How about you, Roland? Tell us, how affected have you been by the environment, or have you had to step out of the box?
Well, for me, there's no box. It hasn't been for a while. I've kind of known as the Lone Ranger in marketing, because I don't quite speak the same language as a lot of people, and I step on a lot of toes. But I do believe, I'm not trying to step on toes. I just believe strongly in what I'm speaking about. So in that respect, I don't conform to other people's methodologies or what they think that I should be doing. And I've known from my experience, I believe what I believe, and that's what I share with the people who will listen.
Great. And can you tell everyone where they can find out more about you as well? What's your site?
Just Google Roland Takaoka, or you can go to rndhotline.com, which is unfinished because of a server crash. I had to rebuild it, so I'm in the process of reconstructing that. Okay. But you can Google me on Google Plus, Roland Takaoka. And thanks to Elaine Nieberding, who I think is watching right now, more and more people are able to spell my last name.
Yes, thank you, Elaine.
and pronounce it. So thank
you. And Lynn, tell us, you already shared how you had to think out of the box. Any other words on, what helped you in your environment, or what you had to do to manifest your dreams?
Lynn, there is so much around that. But if I had to say the single biggest thing for me, and what has manifested into today, is when I first gave myself permission to say no to that and yes to me. And that was me probably at about age 26, the mother of a beautiful little girl who was my first child, and I thought, oh my God, I am somebody's mother. And with that, it was like, you know what, I'm going to give myself permission to be a great mom. And that started a chain effect of my claiming my power. And I spent years in that space of claiming my power, because one of the biggest things that I ended up moving beyond was opening my heart to myself, to believe that I could do my life differently than my mother and my father. And from my father, I think, was the most devastating, because he died at age 29. And every time that 9-year thing came up for me, I just immediately went into this space of total debilitating fear that I might not live to see 29, 39, 49. And at age 59, I finally told myself, you know what, this doesn't make sense for real. You've grown so many years beyond this.
Wait a minute. You're older than 59.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. Well, a couple of years ago. I'm actually in July, I will be 61. And I find it hard to believe. I'm so grateful. And as I look at approaching 69, 79, 89, 99, I am looking at having some of the best years of my life. And I want to say it's because I continue to give myself permission to be, to do, and to have all that I know that God has provided for me in my lifetime. And, you know, Rain, you talked about breaking through the restrictions of that box. And it truly is. You break through and have a breakthrough. And I think the biggest breakthrough is in our hearts. When our hearts actually blossom to see us as totally being who we were called to be, doesn't mean that you're perfect. It doesn't mean that you're actually in the best of circumstances, but it does mean that you can wholly and wholeheartedly hold yourself in a space of love. It is what I call the being in the state of the open heart. And what I know is open hearts, open hearts.
I love that. I love that. Open hearts, open hearts.
And that's where I live now. In the open heart, opening hearts.
Oh, wow. Lynn, what a wonderful closing statement. I wanted to ask each of you if you wanted just to say a phrase or a sentence before we leave, and we're going to be able to invite everyone who would like to participate into the green room, which means you get to come here and meet our guests. Rain will be posting the link in just a moment, if you can, Rain. So let's just, each of the guests, let's just say a word or a phrase that you would like to share with our listeners to inspire, motivate, and empower them to go after their dreams. So, Lynn, anything you've already said, you want to just give us a phrase or sentence?
Well, I want everyone to know that there is no box in life that your heart can be contained in. So open your heart. Be the open heart that opens hearts.
Wow, love that. Roland?
Yeah, if I were to summarize the philosophy in a sentence, it would be to say it's a choice if you want to be negative and doubtful and fearful and angry. So choose to be positive and good and loving, and that's going to go a long way. Don't leave any room for the negative.
Great. Perfect. Rain?
If I had one, it would be recognize and explore your gifts, what you're really good at, and go with that, because your gifts were given to you for a reason, to be used, and to basically increase positivity all around you. And when you're doing that for yourself, it'll just automatically happen for everybody around you. So focus on your positive points and your gifts and move towards those.
Right on, Rain.
Beautiful.
Love it. Love it.
Love it. I'm going to give you one that just came in my mind. Is from, if Elaine is still listening, she had said to me at one point, step into your power. And I love that. So I'm going to give you a little musical sound effect as we leave. And someone had mentioned I should put this on a table, but actually the man who was the Mongolian gift shop person at the Tibetan store had told me to hold it in my hand. So we're going to invite all of you to come into the hangout with us. And with that, we're going to have a little musical closing. And go ahead, manifest your power, be all you can be. You are great. Here's to you. See you soon and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you.